We're going close quarters. This is the name of this pale ale from Rivington Brewing Company. Comes in a nice big 500ml can. What's it going to be like? Check out the review to find out. Welcome back to Rocker's Beer Review. The sun is shining, so we thought we'd get a nice big can of pale ale. This is from Rivington Brewing Company. It's called Close Quarters. Now, we've had one Rivington before, and it was a very good beer. You know, I always hear good things about them. Wanted to try another one. This is a pale ale. But this is actually brewed in collaboration with a number of other local breweries around Rivington, which is, where are they based, Rivington? Doesn't actually know, it's Chorley, Lancashire. So around that Lancashire area, the other breweries, Black Edge Brewing Company, Skate Brewery, Northern Monkey Brew Company, Tin Head Brewery, and Withnell Brew Co. So all of those breweries have been involved in this. It's a collaboration with them, and it is a soft pale hopped with Amarillo, Idaho 7, and Equinox. Let's get this beer out the can and into a glass and see what it's all about. As I said, Rivington, yeah, I've had a couple that it's good. They're always good because they're in 500ml cans, which I think is always good. You get better value for money. Apparently, their double IPAs are exceptionally good. I think we had an IPA was the last one that we had, or it might have been a double dry hop pale ale, but it was a bit stronger than that. So this is a pale ale with a sort of quite interesting sort of level of types of hops. Idaho 7 is one that we have a lot. Equinox and Amarillo, not so much. But beer in a glass, it's a fairly sort of darkish orange. We've got basically 2 fingers of, yeah, sort of soapy white head, I would say that was. Already I can smell some real juicy notes coming from it. Looks pretty good. It's like hazy. Carbonation's pretty slow moving. In practice, pretty much stopped. But let's see what the aromas are like. Yeah, it's got a big sort of orange sort of aroma. There's a bit of pineapple in there. But orange is the dominant sort of aroma there. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's maybe a bit of passion fruit. It smells quite juicy, but I wouldn't call it overly tropical. But let's see what it tastes like. Cheers, everyone. Orange, quite strong, passion fruit. A little bit of pineapple through that. It's very, trying to work out. I mean, it's got like a sort of, there's a sort of orange at the front, and that sort of goes into a bit more complexity in terms of a bit more orange rind, with a sort of smattering of sort of a pineapple through it. But it's quite a soft sort of pineapple flavour. And then you get this sort of, almost like a woody, piney sort of back end. It's pretty good though. It's nice and refreshing. Yeah, there's quite a dryness on the back as well. It reminds me a little bit of it's got that sort of taste sort of profile of a West Coast, but it's definitely got an East Coast type of mouthfeel. It's very soft. It's a very soft pale ale, quite low levels of carbonation. It's obviously, you know, it's quite hazy and fairly sort of, you know, it's a bit lighter that you wouldn't, it doesn't look like a West Coast. But I think it's just those flavours, big hits of orange and passion fruit. I almost think that I'm imagining the pineapple now because it's so in the background. You know, some mouthfuls you don't really get it, but some you do. Orange is very dominant and very orangey. And that's got backed with a sort of a bitter orange sort of in the middle. And then it goes into sort of like a pine needles and a sort of much more sort of piney, earthy finish really. And then it's got this sort of dryness that sort of starts to coat the back of your mouth and you want to take another drink of it. It's not bad. Probably a little bit, I mean, 5%. it's just got that little bit too much of a woodiness to it. And I think, you know, I'm not sure I know enough about Amarillo, but Equinox, I don't know much about all of those in that combination, really. It has that, it's definitely got that piney sort of taste, though, on the back end. Big orange on the front end, which I always characterise with a West Coast type of style. But it has a very soft, pillowy almost mouthfeel. Makes it very easy to drink. Yeah, it's a nice, refreshing beer. Pretty good. Let's get some scores. Okay, the scores are in for the Rivington Close Quarters. This is a pale ale in collaboration with some other breweries in the Lancashire area, coming in at 5% in this big 500ml can. I'm pretty much convinced now that it's a sort of a east-west hybrid type of pale ale. Very much flavours of the West Coast, but very much mouthfeel of an East Coast. But let's go through the scores. So aroma first. Well, certainly when I pop the can open, you've got a big fruity, juicy aroma, really. And you had there was some pineapples in there, but the big dominant aroma in this beer is orange. Very orangey. Maybe a little bit of passion fruit as well. That is really the sort of big thing. I wouldn't say it's massive on lots of tropical notes. The orange almost gets to a point where you do get that sort of slight hint of pineapple, but then the orange just overwhelms it. So it's quite difficult to pick out. But anyone who picks it out will go, yeah, that's definitely orange smelling. So very orangey. It's not bad. I'm giving it 12. Appearance. Well, it's a nice orange, you know, it's like the aroma. It's got an orange, a nice sort of cloudy, hazy sort of orange look to it. You know, we've got nice lace in the glass. We've got literally a thin layer of head there. It's still keeping its head. It looks pretty good. I'm giving it 8 out of 10. Flavour-wise, well, like the colour, like the aroma, it's very orangey. You get this big hit of sort of orange straight away, and then it sort of develops a little bit more into a sort of more orange rind, and you get that little bit of bitterness from those sort of orange flavours. Then that sort of flavour, the bitterness then develops a little bit into a much more sort of, with an introduction, a bit more pininess to it, a little bit more earthiness. And then it's got quite a dry sort of, a sort of dry bitter note on the back end as well. Makes you want to keep drinking it. And that's really it, really. The pineapple that you could get the slight hints from are not really there in the flavours. The orange is really dominant. I do find beers that have an orange sort of flavour that is such a strong flavour that it's very dominant. And you're getting those complex oranges. So you're getting a little bit of like sweet tangerine on the front, but then it sort of develops into a much more normal sort of orange, even a blood orange, and you get the rind and that of the orange. So if you like orange flavours, then you'll probably love this beer. As I said, it reminds me a lot of the of a West Coast in terms of its flavour, but in terms of its mouthfeel, it's soft. It's very soft. And it's very reminiscent of an East Coast sort of pale, where you got that very softness, low levels of carbonation. It's not bad, but flavour-wise, it's still got that orangey bitterness can be a bit overpowering. So I'm giving it 31 for flavour. Value for money, well, it's in a big 500ml can, so that scores it points. This was about £4.50, so it's not too bad. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, pretty solid for value for money. But my overall experience, yeah, that orange is, I'm getting more, the more I drink it, the more I'm getting that orange bitterness. And it's not the best in terms of that sort of, that make you want to drink more of it. It's got a nice mouthfeel, but orange is so dominant, and I'd like a few more of the other flavours. I mean, Idaho 7, usually you're getting a bit more pineapple in that. You're not really getting any of that pineapple. It's almost like, what does the Idaho 7 hop really bring to this beer? So I'm giving it 11 for my overall experience. So we top those scores up and we just about make 70 out of 100. It's a White Snake beer, just Could have very easily been the Bon Jovi beers. It probably crept into that point just because it got a few more points for the fact that it's in a big 500ml can, so it's good value for money. For me, it's a bit too West Coast in terms of its flavour. Orange and bitterness, and it's the bitterness can coat your back of throat so you get this dry bitterness really. And I don't find that pleasant. It's not, although when you first start drinking it, you think, oh, it's really juicy and fruity and a nice, great summer drink. It's a bit too piney for a pale ale for me. It needs a little bit more of carbonation. It needs a little bit more of those zesty sort of flavours, I think, to really sort of give it that better sort of profile in terms of it being a refreshing pale ale. So 70 out of 100, not bad, but not the best. Hope you've enjoyed that video. That's enough from me for today. Until the next one, keep on rocking.